That was close. Always looking for the nighttime crowd. What? Doodling. What? Give us a few minutes, see if anybody shows up. No guarantees. And this line of work. Always fascinating that it looks like it's brighter outside on the screen than it is in here for some reason. Uh, the item. For the woods we go. Just wait to see if anybody wants to join in. Up on 2 minutes. Nobody. Those aren't good numbers. Seriously, it's darker outside than it is on the phone. Huh, interesting. Aha! I got one. Hey, I am northbound I-55 in Mississippi, heading for the outskirts of Memphis right now. And it is way darker outside than it looks on that screen for some reason. I am carrying a 1,600-pound roll of rubber. I have no idea what it's used for, but it's on a spool, and I've got it strapped down, and I'm feeling it as I'm bouncing down the road. It's got my mileage down to 21.7. Hey, Cyber Y2 TZ, Cyber T's hi. Like I said, northbound I-55 in Mississippi, going to the suburbs of Memphis right now. I was home for 6 days. I got off last Monday. Oh, I guess it was 7 days. I got off Monday, stayed home. I went back on the clock Monday, Sunday night for Monday, and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. But last night they called. No, excuse me. This morning they called, and I got this run going this way. I had to go to the town of Deaton, which is east of Houston, to grab this load. And now I'm headed way down 10 to Hammond in Louisiana. I'm straight up 55 to get to the outskirts. What's going on? On this trip home, I had intended on getting my transmission fluid changed again, and the guy at the transmission shop said I wouldn't do it. He looked at the computer. The first transmission fluid swap it got was at 109,000 miles. Now it has 163. And he said I wouldn't do it. And I'm like, what's the story? Hey, Brandon. And I said, the story goes, there's a lot of electronics in the transmission, and if you start changing fluids, stuff starts moving around in there, and it doesn't like it, and your transmission will give you problems. So he said, at this point, I would leave your transmission alone going forward. And this is a guy at a transmission shop. He said his vehicle got the fluid changed to 120, and he said, I will never touch the transmission again. Hey, Leah Liz, what's up? We're northbound I-55 in Mississippi. I am heading towards, where am I heading towards? I'm heading towards a suburb of Memphis for a delivery in the morning. I was home for a week, hanging around with the big boss lady. We spent a couple days building a catio, which is kind of like a really fancy chicken coop for the cats. We have indoor cats, and right now the way it's set up, oops, some of the you can take the cats out, put them in, and then come get them later. You put water, and it's got a cover over it. But what you do is you make basically a miniature doggy door. It's driving. I am driving. Correct. It's like a miniature doggy door, and you make a tube that goes out to it so the cats can go outside whenever they want to, but yet they're protected from the monsters that lurk. The catios, there's a lot of different styles. She found this one, and it's a bunch of little parts. It was made out of a freakishly light wood, but we put it together, and I can get in it. I can dip down and go inside of it. It's kind of cool. So the main mission was getting it built. We were going to paint it, and I don't like going to box stores for paint. We went to Sherwin-Williams, and we found all this paint we want to do in our house, and in that also. And the guy said, "Hey, P.S. Next weekend there's a 40% sale." I'm like, "No, on paint? That's a lot of money." So Mama's going to go pick up the paint next weekend, and I'll be home in a few weeks, and we'll paint from there. And we're probably going to start painting the interior of our house. We built our place in 12 and 13 and painted it the colors we wanted then. Now it's, a little over 10 years later, it's time to change things. So we're going to redo our house with some fancy schmancy paint she picked out. But that's the excitement for right now. This is a load I picked up west of Houston in a little non-town called Dayton. And I put the address in and drove down this road, and there was a bunch of businesses down this road. It was kind of weird. The ground was like the surface of the moon, where you walk and you have a big poof every time you step in the dust. I'm looking around, and I walked in. I said, "Hey, I'm looking for this company." They're like, "Oh, you're that little building on the end," and drove down to a very ratted out little building. And sure enough, that was my target. They're like, "Okay." It's a giant spool. If you set it on the ground, it's about chest high. For me, it's rolled up on a pallet. They put little wood blocks under it, and they strapped it to the pallet. It just barely got inside my vehicle when they set it in here, and I strapped it down. And it's 1,600 pounds of change, and I can feel it back there bouncing down the road. The wife went off the crazy deep end and came out here and detailed my van, which kind of gets the lived-in look as time goes on. Well, she got in here with all her fancy cleaners, wiped the whole place down, and did a bunch of cleaning. Looks really nice inside. I'm very thankful for that. I literally clean out the back of the van with a leaf blower. Uh, the last time I was out, I did about 3 weeks, and I was supposed to meet the wife. Not to know my van. The gross weight on this van, for some reason, they got a nice round number. It's good for 9,070 pounds, and they literally weighed it at my work. They put it on a scale in the shop to see what it weighs sitting there, and they add me to it and add a little bit for fuel, and I'm good for 3,100 pounds. Is what I'm allowed to carry. I've had as much as 29 in here in the past, but that's as heavy as I've ever gone. These vans are pretty good for it. But I was supposed to meet the wife out of New York to go to the family farm, and that turned into an absolute dumpster fire, and it didn't happen. So I was out here on the road for like 5 weeks. After a while, you're out here on the road long enough, all you can see is the dotted line going down the middle of the road, and just your brain kind of drifts off, and it's hard to concentrate. And there's a point where you have to stop and have to go do something else. And I yelled at work, and I said, "I need to run back to Texas." And they got me a good load to Laredo, and I just heading home from there. Go home and forgot what the house looks like, forgot what the wife looks like. The cats forgot who I was. They're looking at me like I was an interloper. And we finally went to bed, and one of our cats, Lucy, came over. Yeah, 10 hours. Lucy came over and climbed on top of me and was sitting on my chest staring at me in the dark. I could just make out the ears. That's the one problem with having a black cat, is they're invisible in the house at night. You get out of bed to go take a pee, you're going to drop kick it because you can't see it. So the cat was sitting on my chest, and I could just make out the ears, and was staring at my face, kind of like, "Why are you here? What are you doing in my house?" So I had to talk to Lucy for a while. Lucy finally figured out I was cool. Yeah, but there's a point when you're any job you have, there's a point where you have to reset. When I was flying out offshore doing the helicopter thing, we were trying to cover a bunch of contracts, and I found out my maximum days in service that I could fly are 38. And how I discovered that was I had to do a little hop down to this little shore base on the beach called Cameron. And I flew down there, and there's a little tiny pad on the edge of the property right by the water. Motorcycles zipping past us. And there, I was kind of flying into the sun, a little tiny pad. And usually, because there's one other helicopter that goes down there for the company, you should land on the pad and then slide over. And for some reason, I landed on the pad and I said, I don't even want to slide over. I'm only going to be here for a second. I shut it down and I got out. And it was after I got out, I noticed there was a helicopter right where I was going to slide. I literally would have slid right, hover taxied into it because my brain wasn't operating. And I went, okay, I called the boss, said, I got to go home. I'm done. Explained to him what happened. He said, yeah, you're done. So 38 days flying and 5 weeks of driving is you need to do something else. You need to do something else. I know there's got to go to museums. Yeah, that was an eye-opening experience. But I take the time to go to museums and go see stuff when I'm out here, and that's kind of if I have a long weekend, I'll do that. It'll give me something to refocus on. That helps. But you're still away from home, and that blows. I was having a rattling sound underneath the vehicle when I'm driving down the road. It's fine, but when you slow down and like walking speed or maybe no more than 15 miles an hour, it's making a racket under the front end. So I took it to a suspension shop and I said, hey, I don't know what's falling off, but it sounds terrible. They drove it. They said, yeah, we're hearing it. And they went under there and they said, there's nothing loose. Tie rods, your bushings, your bearings, your steering, everything's tight. I said, well, what is that noise? I don't know. There's just nothing down there that's really can make that noise. Okay. So I'm still driving it. And then, like I said, the transmission shop said, don't change the transmission. All you're asking for trouble. And I said, okie dokie. So it didn't really cost me anything. I still continue to use Upside, and I continue to use Fetch. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a mystery noise. And I keep getting my oil and my oil filters for free, as far as I'm concerned, by Upside and Fetch. And I have a fresh oil change in the vehicle. I have all the equipment for another oil change on board, and I have another set at home, all paid for with Fetch and Upside. So that works. Yeah, the noise driving down the road, there is no effect, none. But when I'm slowing down and like pulling into a parking lot, you hit a bump, it's like you have an empty aluminum cup sitting in your cup holder, and it kind of rattles, but it's underneath the vehicle, and they can't figure out what it is because there's nothing loose. So I'm back at it. In a helicopter, it's different. In a helicopter, you hear anything that doesn't sound right. Anything will have you at absolute wide open. In a turbine-powered helicopter, if you're having a tail rotor problem, you feel it in your feet. If you're having a rotor system or transmission problem, you feel it in your hands. If you're having an engine problem, you feel it in your ass. And you'll notice it immediately. Here it's just a sound, but it doesn't affect the drive at all. It is really dark outside, and on the screen it's light, shockingly light. But this is I-55 northbound, and I have a drop supposed to be there by 9 in the morning, and I called my dispatch and said, hey, these guys open 24 hours, and he looked in, he said, nah, they open at 6:30 in the morning. I will be there at 6:30 in the morning to get this off and to get back on the board as fast as possible. I said, as AZZ or $8 $. No, seriously, that's how you tell when something's going wrong. And what a lot of people don't realize about a helicopter is it is a balancing act. And you can walk up to a hovering helicopter, put your hand on it and push, and it'll move. So if I'm flying along and somebody in the back seat leans forward, pull their wallet out of their pocket, I feel it. I'll notice the movement. That's how delicate the balance is. Here, this thing's a little more crude, comparatively speaking. But I'm enjoying my drive. I put on YouTube and I listen to what's called autumn jazz, and it's a picture of the fall time, and it looks like a little store, coffee shop in a little quaint little neighborhood, and it's like jazz music. And I listen to that going down the road and I really enjoy it. I was only on one Grand Canyon. I used to fly the Grand Canyon. Did you take off from Las Vegas, or did you go up to Grand Canyon West Airport that's right there on the edge? How did you get there? Because I used to fly the Grand Canyon, and the company I flew for, which was back right up to COVID and then a little bit after COVID, was called, what was it called? American Spirit. You went up the Grand Canyon West, or what's called the South Rim. Do you remember who you flew with? What company? There's the big companies are Papillon and Maverick, which almost exclusively are flown by super rookies. Oh, 40 years ago. Oh, jeez. Okay. I was working there uh, 18, 19, 20. Okay, yeah, I mean, this probably changed names by then. I was there right up into COVID, and when COVID hit, ironically, about 75% of the people that are up there at that point was they were from mainland China. Oops. So that whole thing up there got shut down. And I think it killed some of the bigger companies because you can't have 25 or 30 helicopters sitting on a ramp doing nothing. It's too expensive. And all the PPE money or whatever that was called, the world won't fix that. But yeah, I flew at the Grand Canyon West Airport. I did tours where you fly over, drop over the edge, drop down 3,500 feet, follow it, and pop up. And it was a 12-minute flight, give or take 15 seconds, which means I got to tell the same jokes, the same trivia with the same enthusiasm every 12 minutes. Hey, where are you from? Yeah, this is great. Yeah. First time in a helicopter? Cool. Do the joke about narcolepsy and then land in the next group and start over again. They go, man, you got the best job in the world. Yeah, you're right. I've only seen this wall 65 times today. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, it was okay. I didn't mind doing it. But COVID killed that whole operation. And the company ended up pulling out of Vegas. Well, a couple companies pulled out of Vegas on that, on the Grand Canyon. Yeah, that's the best part. You could just reuse the same jokes. When you'd go over the edge, you'd take off to the north, kind of glance off to the northwest, and there's a drop off, and it's called Eternity. And when I would go over that, you had to get down because there were aircraft coming in from Vegas that would follow the rim at the top, and they would do a lap. We had to drop down, and the drop to the level we had to go to. I had to what they call in helicopter terms flat pitch, which means I had to reduce the power on the blades to the floor, so it would descend without doing something weird as fast as it could go down. And at the point you're falling out of the sky in flat pitch, you could literally shut the engine off and it would make no effect on the aircraft. I mean, it was that's how little they were using. The blades were just turning because there was wind going through it from the bottom. Then you get to the bottom and have to pull power, make the turn, and then you follow around. I don't remember all the checkpoints, but the last one we would hit was called the quartermaster. Oh yeah, with people inside. Yeah, that's how you do that. And then you'd claw your way out of the quartermaster is what it was called. And that's when you had to power it. And the thing about the Grand Canyon that kind of fascinated me is you can look at pictures of it all day long, and the pictures don't mean anything until you stick your face in it because it's very deceptive, the size. It's way, 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 way bigger than it looks. And when you're in it, I would have to demonstrate to people how big it was because there's a couple of spots where you could actually see people. And I would say, do you see those little black dots? And they're like, yeah. I said, those are people. And they'd be like, no. Yeah, that kind of gives you perspective. And when you were climbing out the quartermaster, occasionally there was another company that would be climbing next to me. And I could look over there at the wall that looks like it's 100 yards away, and it's really a mile or two away. And I would go, do you see the helicopter next to us? And they would all look over and go, no. I go, keep looking, it's orange. And they would look and they would go, I don't see a, oh God. And it was like a little fly speck, but you're expecting to see an aircraft, but that's how far away. Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. And I tell you, one of the most powerful experiences I think I gave to a passenger is I spent $500 on a pair of Enchroma glasses. And if you are not familiar with them, look it up. Enchroma, Enchroma, Enchroma. You put them on, you give them to somebody who's colorblind, and in most cases, it gives them color acuity. And as I was saying, the glasses, the passengers were from mainland China. So I would get these people on, and I know that the word colorblind in China is Seimang. I had to learn that. And I would be walking to the aircraft with a load of people who I cannot communicate with. And I would point at my eyeballs with my two fingers and I would say, Seimang. And one would stop and they'd start talking amongst themselves. And then they would point at the same person. It's usually a guy, it's usually not women. And they would go, Seimang. And I would take the glasses out of the holder and I would say, hand it to him. And he would put them on and the guy would stop. I mean, he would stop. They'd start looking around. And then they would start talking amongst themselves, and the guy would just keep looking, and we would try to walk to the aircraft, and the guy wouldn't walk. He would just stand there. He was just staring because he was seeing the color of the Grand Canyon. And he would get in, and I always put him in the front. And more times than not, they would be crying when they were flying around. And I had a pile of cards where you could buy these glasses, and I would hand it to them. They'd hand me the glasses back, and they were more excited about those glasses and that card than they were about the flight. But they would be babbling amongst themselves once they found out what it did, because they're relatively new. Whoa! I got a guy coming up next to me in a truck. It's got all kinds of crazy lights on the dashboard. You see the flashing? It's in his grill. That was weird. Yeah, Enchroma glasses. Here on YouTube, look up Enchroma. And you'll see people putting them on for the first time and watch their reactions to it is somewhat stunning if you get the chance. Yeah, that guy's entire grill was going up and down like a barcode. That was weird coming up in the mirror. No, EN. Yes, right spelling, but change the I for an E in Chroma. And look on YouTube. There are people, you'll see people putting them on. And you watch their reactions, and the few women that do it, because it's only like 10% of colorblind people are women. The women always want to see their kids' eyes. Yes, they always want to see their children's eyes. And I've seen people put them on, and they're standing in a park, and they look at the ground, and they reach down, and they start petting the grass, and they go, "You see this every day?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, I guess." And they go, "Well, that's not fair." They're fascinated with the grass clippings. But yeah, in Chroma glasses, if you know, ask about. If you know anybody that's colorblind, buy some of those. I think the cheapest ones, at the time, I think they're $350. And if you get them for somebody, tell them to put them on and leave them on, because some people will take them on, take them off, take them on, take them off. You don't want to do that. You want to let your brain kind of adjust to what they're doing. And the reaction is usually shocking. So take them somewhere fun. Take them to a plant nursery or where they got lots of flowers, or wear brightly colored clothes. Do something, Take them somewhere where they're going to get the shock. It's a shame. My grandfather was colorblind, and these glasses didn't exist while he was alive. And I would have loved to have put a set of those on him. But at this point in my life, I don't know anybody that's colorblind. And ironically, there are people running around out there that don't know they're colorblind. James Washington, good evening, sir. We are northbound on I-55 in Mississippi. This sign right here says I am 20 miles south of Jackson, Mississippi. And my drop is tomorrow morning early in the outskirts of Memphis in a town called South Haven. And I got a 1,600 pound roll. There's a car parked on the side of 1,600 pound roll of rubber. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, thank you, sir. I went back in service today. They called me. I went in service Sunday night. Didn't get any calls for Monday. And then this morning I hopped on my scooter. I have a Bergman. I went to my mother's house, well, my stepdad's house, and I was there about 20 minutes, and I got the call. They had to pick up the east side of Houston, and I blasted down 10 across Louisiana over to Hammond, which is north of New Orleans, and turned on 55 and headed north from there. And here I go. And I'm still doing my 62, but this payload is heavy, heavy, heavy. So my mileage is down to 21.7, which is a little lower than I'm kind of used to. We were talking about chroma glasses, and those are the glasses they developed a few years ago that make you put them on somebody who's colorblind, and more times than not, they can see color. And it's rather shocking when people try them for the first time. And I had a pair of them when I was flying the Grand Canyon. I would hand them to people, put on, and just watching the expression on their face when they put them on. And I had cards, and where you could buy them and stuff. That was a neat experience. But if you're on YouTube here, look around in chroma glasses, and there's a whole bunch of videos of people trying them for the first time. And it's a reaction you get out of people that's quite stunning. Ooh, I was listening to earlier on, again, YouTube, listening to what's called autumn jazz. And it looks like an animated, high-tech animated picture of a coffee shop outdoors with the colors of autumn and leaves falling. And it's kind of a flowing jazzy music. And I really enjoy listening to that going down the road. And I cannot figure out how to play that music and stream at the same time. If I could, I would, because it's very relaxing and I really enjoy it. Where's everybody tuning in from tonight? I know some of you, but some of the people on here, I don't know who's on here completely. And how's the stream looking? On here, it's clear, but it's on my phone. I don't know what's transmitting. I have it cut out or had a disconnect, reconnect happen. Should knock on wood. Yeah, I don't want to fall asleep. I just like the sound playing kind of in the background, echoing around in here. And for a cargo van, this thing has a, okay, good, thank you. For a cargo van, the sound system in here is shockingly good. I was in Wisconsin. I was streaming, driving through some absolutely gorgeous terrain, zigzagging, real tight turns. The trees were all over the road, and the stream cut out. I never came back. And it's always at the best places where the most beautiful scenery is happening. Then it goes, surprise. Yeah, if you're ever on a long drive and you're falling asleep and you don't have the option to stop and sleep, two things will keep you awake. Drink water, drink a lot of water, and put something on YouTube. It's my favorite. Put something on that pisses you off. Put on a video of something you hate. Somebody doing something or saying something that just pisses you off. And that always keeps me awake. So it's something controversial. Good. It sounds good. I'm glad. I've transitioned from talking to the built-in microphone to a little headset, which is what I'm wearing right now. I try to use that so outside sounds are not in here. I think this is the extreme outskirts of Jackson, Mississippi, which I know literally nothing about. But Mama came in here and wiped down the dash and the panels and did everything really nice to the inside of this thing. It was good in here. It was kind of nice to sleep in my own bed for a change. Because of my height, I have to sleep cattywampus in here. It's between the walls, I don't fit, so I have to sleep at a funny angle. So it's nice getting in my bed where I can stretch out within the limits of what the cat lets me do. Because the cats always want to get in between your legs or get up under your arm or something. And for those of you who don't know the history of our cats, about 7 or 8 years ago, we had a black cat hanging out in our backyard. We live in a townhouse, bought and paid for it. Townhouse that has a courtyard out back with brick walls. And this cat was laying in the sun in our backyard, opened the door, and of course it disappears. We put some food out for it. It's a black cat. It got a little braver every day until for about 2 weeks. And then finally I was out there one night talking on my phone on speaker, and the cat came out of the darkness. Again, you can't see a black cat in the dark. It was meowing, but I could somewhere around me started rubbing my leg, and I pet it. It was like, all right, this cat's cool. I opened the door, and the cat came in the house and told the wife, check this out. Cat walked by her, went to the kitchen, went upstairs, walked around for a while, came back down, climbed up on the couch, curled up in a ball. And I said, I think we have a cat. That was 7 or 8 years ago. Cat never left. And about a year and a half ago, another cat appeared in the yard and we fed it. It was our best friend immediately. It's real fluffy, furry, fluffy cat. And the fluffiness was the hair felt like wire, like a wire brush. It was really weird. It's been outdoors a long time. But it was friendly after one feeding, and it came in and asked our first cat, which is Lucy, asked Lucy how's the situation. And Lucy was like, it's great, come on in. So now we have a second cat, which we named Two, as in number two. So Lucy and Two, they go between hanging out together to fighting with each other to chasing each other to licking each other to fighting each other to sleeping next to each other. They just kind of do their thing. But if you do have an animal, it's usually good to have two because they need to have something to relate to, especially when we're gone. And in upstairs, we have a bedroom and we have what's called the scullery, which is a smaller bedroom that my wife has exclusively for artsy craftsy stuff. And she put these little hammocks in the windows, and the cats lay up in those hammocks and patrol the neighborhood from above. Keep an eye on that's their hangout. But Mama has her. I don't know where the name came from, but the scullery, she calls it. But I was home for, I guess, 7 days. The wife and I got to go scooterizing, as we say, scooterizing around town. We ate out, went to this Mexican restaurant we really liked, got some house projects done, got some things taken care of. We're planning, I got to get hold of my cousin. We're planning trying to get that New York trip in November for hunting season for my wife because she likes to do that. The area our family farm is located in. We have a courtyard in the back. We have a fancy brick floor and brick walls, and it's in the corner, around the corner, and next to our fireplace is, I think, where the wife wants to put the hole in the wall with the flap, and then you put like a tube, and I don't know what the tube is made out of. We're going to run the tube through the wall and kind of around the little turn, or she wants to move it closer. But I think that's where she wants to put the hole. And if we have the ability, she's considered putting it upstairs and putting the tube at an angle down to the catio. We're kind of kicking that around. I don't know if it's something we want to do or we want to hire somebody. My wife is shockingly good with tools. Shockingly good. When we were remodeling this place, she's getting out drywall and spackle and just, I'm like, yeah, you get it, girl. Yeah, no, well, the cat's got to be able to get back up again, so it can't be a slide, but that's a consideration is the tube coming out the wall on the second floor. We're kicking this around there. You may hire someone to put in the fancier version, which would be kind of fun to have a tube coming through the wall where they can walk down into their little get outdoors when they want to box. We go out there with them, but we don't leave them on their own because we don't want a pterodactyl swooping out of the sky and grabbing them and flying off or something. You got to kind of watch out. Yeah, this is definitely good. I've done that all. Yeah, my wife's she's good at that stuff. My mechanical skills are somewhat limited, but I'm getting really good at changing the oil. Oh, hold on a second. I gotta recheck that. Mommy! Mama! Wait a minute. Nope. It's a call. Sorry. Yeah, my wife's good at that stuff. My mechanical skills are somewhat limited, but I've gotten really, really good at changing the oil on this van. Really good at it because it's the same thing over and over again. And when I was home, real close by our house, there's a parking lot that kind of belongs to nobody. That's next to an auto parts store, and I go whip in there and I drive around on the back and I get that one wheel up on the curb, and I said I need the wife to hand me stuff, and I got under there, went zip zip zip, and we got up, turned the oil in at the auto parts store. They retank all the oil. My wife said that was quick. And I said it's the same oil change every time. It's pretty consistent. Time we got 7:55. Yeah, when you're out here driving around, you start jumping time zones, and it kind of have a hard time keeping an eye on which time zone you're in. You watch your phone. Your phone will always tell you where you're at, time zone wise. And I still think I'm in Central. So this is Jackson, Mississippi. I'm going through here and I'm continuing on north to. There's a pilot flying J up here on the outskirts of Memphis. I'm going to be hiding out at tonight. Yeah, it's bouncing off this area. And Leah Liz, remind me again where you're at physically these days. Tell you what, I come on here like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning is when I get a bunch of people piling on here, which I think is weird, but I guess it's different parts of the world. North Carolina, okay. Yeah, our company has a branch office somewhere in North Carolina. And they call me occasionally. They're actually the ones that got me the load that I went to Laredo with Monday last week. I I lose track of who's where. So I got all my laundry done. I got a fancy sheet that covers my near Charlotte. Yeah, that's the area I went to. Greenboro. So that sounds like it. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago I was in Greenboro, North Kakalaki. The only time I've ever dropped a load and had them literally set the load down, pick up another one, and put it back in the van to go somewhere else. Greensboro, that's it. I'm thinking Forrest Gump, Greenbow, Alabama, which doesn't exist. But yeah, that was the only time it's ever been unloaded and reloaded in the same building. Sorry, I'm having to watch the mirrors here. I got a turn coming up, I think, North 55, Granada. I'm sorry, I'm kind of watching my navigation at this point. I like the fact that there's very few cars on the road because I went through Baton Rouge, came out the other side on the east side, and it was stop and go traffic for about 45 minutes for no reason. Yeah, absolutely no reason it was doing that. maddening. I still have my air conditioner on board and my generator. I think when I get home after this trip, which is going to be early mid October. Yeah, it was weird, but there was like, we're completely outside of town. We got 3 lanes to play with, and it stop and go, stop and go. So the other side of the highway's flowing. We're just back in the house, and I got to go to my wintertime sleeping bag, which is really big. It's 40 inches wide and 90 inches long. Biggest sleep bag I've ever seen in my life. And I have woken up while sleeping in a rest area in this van, and it was 4 degrees outside. And I'm all comfy curled up in there, but I had to get out to get dressed, which sucked. But such is life. Ooh. Yeah, it was cold. But there's a lot of guys, if you have a diesel van, they make these little diesel powered heaters people will put in them, and they actually dip the fuel line into your main gas tank, and it'll pull out. Mine's gas powered, so that doesn't work. I don't think they make a gas powered heater. They do make a diesel, but honestly, I kind of like it cold, so I'm not really big on trying to make my van hot inside. I prefer cold weather. That's maybe because I've been living in Texas for the last 25 years. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, well, I'm not doing it anyway. Okay, you see this guy in front of us? Not him. Check this out. This dude in this lane in front of us is drunk. He's doing the classic drunk driver routine. People playing with their cell phone is different. This guy in front of us is doing the drunk thing. I don't know if you can see it yet, but he's kind of drifting around in his lane. He's touching the dotted line and the straight line. Rest stop's the only place. No, there's two. Generally speaking, I'm going to move over here. I don't think you're looking at this guy. Generally speaking, you stop at truck stops. I use Pilot Flying J and rest areas. There's other places you can hide out. If you're going by a business with a parking lot, that's private property, stay away. But if you go by a shopping center that has a parking lot that has a bunch of work vans that kind of look like yours, yeah, he's in the left lane up here. Yeah, that kind of look like yours. I blended in. I went to a small town where there was nowhere to hide out, and there was a U-Haul rental place. It was like midnight. There was a U-Haul rental place, and there was one vehicle missing out of the formation, and I backed in and took his place, and nobody ever noticed me there. And there's also a tricky way of using an airport. No, that guy's in a hurry. I've used airports, not big airports, but small airports. And if you coming from an aviation background, there is a trick to getting into the building. You're like a little private air, not private. Whoa! What's this second here? Hold on, north. I'm sorry, I'm trying to watch all this. 55 north. Here we go. There's a trick to getting into the building. It'll be locked up. It's got 1 or 2 runways, and there's a little building. I went in. I got on my phone. And I just Googled airports near me, and it listed one. I was like 50 miles from nowhere, and there was a little tiny airport. And I dialed it up, and I was like 3/10 of a mile from it, because little airports are everywhere. They're literally everywhere, but you wouldn't know it unless you were looking for it. I dialed it up, and it was 3/10. All right, I drove over there, and I got the place, and they're locked. But there's the key word. Whoa, what's going on here? If you know the tricks of aviation, you can find out it's a 4-digit code to get in. And if you understand the system, you can get in there. And I got the combo to the door, let myself in, and there was like a sign-in sheet. And I walked through the building, there's some offices and stuff, and see that dude's doing it again. That's the guy from and hold on here. And I ended up, it had a bathroom and it had a shower. So I'm there, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I went and took a 45-minute shower because you always keep a towel with you and your supplies. Okay, I got to make a turn up here. North, left, exit 46. That's, does this lane go away? Don't you take my lane away. Hold on here. Yeah, so I went there and splashed around for 45 minutes. I cleaned up my mess when I was done. And then I went out to sleep in the parking lot, and I got up at like 7 in the morning, and there was nobody there, and I drove off. But you got to know the tricks to the aviation tricks. All right, following this. Hold on here. Ooh, concrete walls, concrete walls. Sure. So I've stayed in airports a few times. And you can't be in a circumstance where you have to run a generator or make noise. You just kind of put your blinders up and hide, and you got to kind of learn how to blend in. I've been very successful at that. But rest areas are a good place to stay, but there's no food available. So that's something you got to think about coming over. And truck stops are the thing, and they can be noisy. But airports are nice because there's nobody else there but you usually. Because they're used to seeing vehicles parked there for periods of time. Seriously? It's another 189 miles? I did not see that coming. Wow. Boy, they weren't kidding. It is a long way up here. Anyway, yeah, resourceful. There you go. Every once in a while, I stay at a hotel. That's usually if I have a long weekend, I'll get a hotel. You check in, like the earliest you can check in is like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and usually I'll let you get in there at 1 o'clock if you walk in and say, "Hey, look, I'm just burning daylight," and then you sleep all the next day and get up and you have to kick you out at 11 o'clock the next day. That's the times I use hotels. If I have a weekend to burn, I need to go 300 miles. I've got 2.5 days to do that Sunday. But that's the time. I try not to. I don't like spending the money on it. Seems a little unnecessary. That's 2, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's about 600 miles. Yeah, that's how far this trip's. A little under 600. I'm sitting here doing the math in my head on how far these hops are. Kind of works out. Anyway, Tennessee is the bottom of our core area. Our core goes from, I'm going to say Iowa. It's kind of the outskirts. Everything east of there, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. That's the core. And down to Tennessee is pretty much the bottom of our biggest area. Is your body clock? My body clock, I don't know what it's on. Physically I am, but I jump back and forth. I don't even notice. I don't even notice. Well, my last flying job, I flew medical, and you would work days, 12-hour days, or you work 12-hour nights. And you just bounce back and forth, and you just learn how to physically, mentally turn it on and off as needed. And sometimes you would fly all day or night, and sometimes you wouldn't fly at all. You would spend a whole 12-hour shift doing nothing. Just hanging out, sleeping, and watching TV north here in Memphis. Okay. Hold on here. Oh, it's starting to buffer. Sorry, it's not showing that on this side. It's amazing. I'm in the middle of Jackson, Mississippi, and it can't get reception. Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's highway patrol right there, giving off the bright colors. Ooh, is he behind the drunk? He's behind the drunk guy, I think. Yeah, look at that. That guy right there on the right, lane next to us. He's going to follow him off the exit. Is he? No. That was the guy swinging all over the road. And this cop raced up, got behind him, and then didn't do anything. And now what's he doing? He is, well, he's getting off. Never mind. Nope. All right. So I'm going 55, and whoa, pick a lane, dude. That's another. And yep, that guy's hitting the dotted lines on both sides. He almost sideswiped me when he went by. Wow. Yeah, you can't see it in your camera; it's too far away. But wow. And yes, I have a dash camera. Must be drinking and driving. Must be a sport around here. Personally, never done it before. Then again, I don't drink, so it all kind of plays in together. Sorry, I'm having to wash my ears since I don't know what's happening. Starting to bug up here a little bit. It's love bug season, and I scraped these windows off here when I got fuel earlier. And the key word is scraped. Yeah, there's times when you see a lot of trucks on the road, but this is kind of weird. If it's like late Friday, early Saturday morning, look around this guy. The drunks are predictable as the tides on the interstate. They'll always be in the right lane going 5 under, trying to be as innocent as humanly possible. They'll be 50, going 50 and a 55 in the right lane. They're advertising themselves is all they're doing. This is the most cars I've seen for a while. Road. Yeah, the wife and I got on a kick. We're watching old movies. We saw Some Like It Hot, Chaz, Jack Lemmon, and Tony Curtis. Where they, it's interesting where they dress up like women because they're running from the mob. And it's based during Prohibition, but everybody's drinking. Everybody's got a hidden stash of alcohol, and everybody's drinking, which was kind of wild. And then we saw one called The 7-Year Itch, which I've heard of. It was made in 1955, and it's a really, really, really good movie. Well, an actor I've never seen before is the main guy. Once uh, a cop told me, yeah, that sounds about right. But if you get some free time, go see a movie called The 7-Year Itch. Just let it roll for. It's got Marilyn Monroe in it. Let it go for a while. And most of the movie is about the main guy, and it's him. This was in spring. He asked me when. Yeah, they come up with excuses, none of which are legal to pull people over. That's happened to me. Oh, this is a high crime area. Well, when was the last time anybody got convicted of, quote, being in a high crime area? Yeah, they always ask that question, but I don't answer it. Yeah, I get those. You're suspicious. Uh-huh. You fit the description of some non-event. Yeah, they always ask those questions. But go see the 7-Year Itch. It's a color movie, which was kind of unusual for the era. And the wife and I watched it. It was a kick. It's a guy thinking worst case scenario, what might happen, and it shows what he's thinking. Thinking this is the way this may unfold, and it kind of shows it. And it's my wife and I were laughing out loud watching that film. And for 1955, it was a little bit racy, which made it even more fun because you got to remember the era. Wow, so 18-wheeler back there on the side of the road with no lights and no No triangles up, which is really unusual and very illegal. Oh, got here to North Grenada, Memphis. Okay. Oof. Well, the next rest area is coming up, and I'm probably, yes, I'm required to carry triangles. Never got them out of they're wrapped up in a strap. I've never used them, but I'm required to have them. That's another great thing about a van is you can make it fit anywhere. I believe the law says if you're stopped on a road in a not normal parking area for more than 10 minutes, you have to put them up. But if I do pull over for a moment, I'll flip on my flashers. No matter how far off the road I get, I always use my flashers. But I can carry them. I have a fire extinguisher here behind the seat. Different ring. I've got a medical kit somewhere. It's just the basic things I'm required to carry for this job because this is a commercial operation. Even though DOT ignores us, the way I drive is just like driving your car. Excuse me. I just thought about doing manual labor and had an allergic reaction. Did you hear it? Whoa. Ugh. That's one of the traits my mother gave me, the sneeze too many times trait. Okay, I am going to slide over. You're not jumping behind me. Oh, trying to get out of everybody's way here. Oh, thank you. Going through Jennings, we got 4 lanes to play with, and the cars are all nice and spread out. This is kind of nice. You ever driven through Atlanta? It's bumper to bumper traffic 24 hours a day. And years ago, when COVID happened, and I started this expediting thing. It's the first time I did it for a while. Multiple states. Yeah, my mother starts, and my brother and I start counting with our fingers. I think our record is 12. But I went through Atlanta, and the traffic was flowing, and I was so shocked by it. I filmed it middle of the night, but I was just like this. It looked like this right here, and I was shocked. It's Atlanta. I'm coming up on an hour, and I usually do this for about an hour. So here, I'm about to cut out. I don't know what tomorrow brings. I'm just here kind of talking about what's happening in life and people want to talk about. Yeah, and Atlanta goes on forever, by the way. It's 100 miles, I think, from one side to the other. It's like Dallas Fort Worth. It's all one big blur. So I'm going to go ahead and bail off for now, but I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. And Lisa, Liz, I hope to see you then. Take care.